I mean, so would you say Everest couldn't be climbed on nylon? Essentially, it's a post-war, pre-war thing.
It probably, I mean, yeah, it could be climbed post-war with the knowledge we have now, I'm sure. Yeah, you could go up there and wool and everything, you just get the right amount of, and feathers, or they had down feathers, they just hadn't applied them into, they hadn't been sleeping bags, they hadn't turned them into clothing yet. So, I mean, that's a great question, it's the first time I've ever heard that. So, but you could do it post-war with pre-war technology, but with post-war knowledge. So,
but they did the Iger notch phase.
yes. They went back in the period clothing and that. But there's a whole magnitude of difference between 3,000 meters and 8,000 meters. It's probably, and the guys that did it in the clothing were top-notch climbers. And they knew the route, and they knew everything. So again, having that knowledge, I'm sure that you put off a Sherpa in some wool clothing, he'll just run right up there. Nothing's stopping him, right? So.
Conrad, wasn't there a Zimmerman film called 7 Days, One Summer, where Sean Connery actually reenacts the whole climb in the Alps? And I don't know if you ever saw that. A wonderful period film.
Two more questions. This gentleman, please.
During your expedition, did you try to lift that 90 to 54 times? I mean, using the Fitbit, ice axe, and leather boots, and try to climb actually with those, old-fashioned equipments. I mean, try to cut the steps and try to climb ice wall.
Yeah, we initially
not proper crampon.
Yeah. Initially, when Anthony was like, "Oh, we want to do it in period clothing," I'm like, "Well, you're going to have to find someone else. It's not going to be me." I've been up there. I know what it's like, and I know how demanding it is. And it's all you have to do is hold up the boot, and you're going, "Wow, there's a world of difference there." Please.
How was climbing the second step, and how difficult was it? And had you tried to climb one of the other expeditions?
Yeah, 99 is questions regarding the second step, which is a 90-foot cliff at 28,300 feet. And in 99, I did it most of the way free when I stepped on the ladder because, to paraphrase Mallory, because it was there. And it was, and it was one of those things I was trying to, it made it more difficult to avoid it, and I was matching feet, and I stepped on the second last run, so of course it wasn't a clean, pure ascent. If you're a climber, there's a whole world of difference between doing it all with your fingers and then grabbing a piece of gear. So we came back in 2007, we removed the ladder and then placed the equipment and belayed on it, and even then I took a slip that fall that's in the lip, there's an actual real fall, so that changed things there. So it's probably anywhere from, I say it was 5'10", Leo calls it 5'8", but he's a rock star, so. But he was on top rope, and I led it, and I say it's 5'10", so. But it's like fist climbing and a knee jam to face holds at extreme altitude, so it's the world's highest technical climbing, so.
I think I heard Eric Simons say that you were halfway up the first time before he even got out of the way.
Oh, yeah, Dave. Yeah, he was.
Dave.
Yeah, Dave was like, "Whoa." Yeah, he was. Dave's a great guy, but I come from Yosemite. He comes from Rainier, and it's great. We still climb together. We eat. We do these things, but it's sort of like he'd already been up there. He was like, "Man, this is a ladder." It's just he was freaking out. We were going to get on there, but psychologically, it was a bit easier knowing that that ladder was there and I could just Batman over to it and grab it and save myself. And after, in 2007, when we did the ascent, and we put it in the media machine that it is, I was still on the mountain, put out that it was the first free ascent, and all of a sudden these 4 other climbers came out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, I climbed it, I was there before." Right? Oh yeah, and it was just huge. And the Explorers Web, they fanned the flames of controversy to their own benefit because they wanted to keep it going, and it was miserable, and I just ended up I couldn't look at the website because it was just this, but I ended up doing the research on it, and I was like, I know the Sherpa community. I was like, "Hey, you were out there with this guy, what happened there?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he used the ladder." So I went back to this guy, I was like, "Hey, your buddy that was there, he said he used the ladder." And this is all going back back and forth on email, and he's like, oh, he has a grudge because he didn't give me enough time. And I was like, oh, come on now. So, and I'd never met this guy. He's insane. And so it was, I just said, and I know this guy, the Sherpa fellow, and I was like, yeah. I had tea with him, and he said he didn't make it. He said, grab the ladder, so I took his word for it. This other Russian guy came up and said that he had climbed it far to the right because there was a queue of people on there, and the rock just disintegrates. And there's like, he free soloed it to the right, and I'm just like, oh. And the most plausible, the third guy was the Swiss guy that said he laid it back, and then just went around it. But still, he had to step over the ladder, which when I did it in '99 was the crux of the difficulty there. So it was kind of a challenge to see that, see where it is. So we ended up calling it the first documented free ascent. There were no one can, no one. But again, in climbing, it's you. In this day and age, if you're a professional climber and you're going to go there and you're going to say, "I did this," you have to have photographic backup. And so I mean, Tomo Seisen on the south face of Lhotse is a great example, and the climb on Kanchenjunga. And we have all the Maestri and Saratori and all these things, and it just, climbing sort of attracts them. So if you don't have proof about it, you better not talk about it, and just let it be, and be content that you did it for your own personal reasons. But if you're going to make hay out of it, you better have the combine, which is the thing that makes hay. You better have it tuned up. And so in this case, the metaphor, the combine would be your camera. So, last question. Last two. I'll get both of you there, please.
Jeffrey Anker wrote a big book on Mallory and Mallory. And in between in his training sessions, he describes a peculiar machine which is used to assess the ability of a climber to perform at high altitudes. Were these things really, or is it fiction? The Royal Geographic Society used to sort of test climbers. I mean, that's how Irving Mallory went through, and so did Irving.
This is in the Jeffrey
Archer. Figment of his imagination, or was it really?
In the Jeffrey Archer book.
Yes.
Yeah, it's it's fiction. So. Peter Gilman is and Audrey Salkelder, the two Everest historians that are they're the end all. They have really researched it, and neither of them. I mean, if we'd known about the training machine, so we probably would have put it into the film or gone and used it. But I read the first 20 pages of it, and then I had to go do math homework with my 10-year-old. So, last question.
Yeah. It's interesting if you see the book called The Shining Mountain, which was written by two Brit climbers many years ago when they made the ascent of Changabang, Peter Bodman and Joe Tasker. Their entire training was, when they were in England, they would go to an ice factory and sleep the night there, basically. That was their training.
Please.
Two short questions. One is, what happens to Ruth? What does she go on to do with her life, Mallory's life? And the other is that you suggest that there is this desire to get to the third pole. So there's a kind of nationalism that's informing the expedition. But Mallory's own sort of politics, 1914, 15, 16, they're informed by a sort of socialist internationalism.
Yes.
So for him, climbing Everest is not so much to do with nationalism, although the expedition may be informed by that. So
this is great. Two really good questions. And so if you have the time, please listen. Otherwise, we need to get home. I understand. But Ruth, she was his wife was a tragic loss of her husband, and she raised the three children, and one son, John Mallory, is still alive, lives in South Africa, and one daughter immigrated to the United States, and has her children live in New York and in the Bay Area. So she continued on and lived a happy life. She didn't remarry, but it was a very tragic thing for her, I think, for any spouse that is Yeah, Mallory wasn't particularly nationalistic. I mean, he was in the war because it's what people did at that time, and it was there was a very imminent threat to England. And he saw combat at Ypres, which was one of the more. It was all of a sudden humans figured out that machines can be put to more effective use to killing people. So, and after the war, he was part of the Bloomsbury group, which was an artistic political group in London. They're very socialist, left-leaning, and very open to many different things. And so that was probably his thing. I think for Mallory, he wasn't doing it for a nation as much in the same way that Scott tried to get to the pole, but more of like a personal embetterment as a way, a career path, and something that I think probably in the bigger picture was a real challenge for him, and that he wanted to do. He wanted to try something that no one else had done. He wanted to be the first, and that was. And if he needed to use the support network of the Royal Geographic Society in England at the time, then so be it. That's what he needed to do. So, great questions, all of you, and I really appreciate you coming this evening. Mandeep is going to take the lecture here for a second.
Well, with that, just two quick small announcements really. One, of course, thank you, Conrad. It has been really a wonderful. I'm particularly delighted to see, because of Conrad, some of our older members of the Himalayan Club who we don't get to see often. He's saying Captain Kohli, who incidentally led our first successful Everest expedition. And I also see Suman Dubey. So what I will do is request both Suman and Captain Kohli to kindly give Conrad a plaque from the Himalayan Club. And I might like to call Brooks to join me as a member of the Explorers Club, so we have a kind of a balance. And with that, I also want to say that Conrad has brought 20 of his books, which are actually out of print, called The Lost Explorer. He will sign them for people, 500 rupees a copy, and that money is going to the Green Hiker campaign of the World Wildlife Fund, which he's very kindly donating to. So after the talk, if people wanted that, that's for you here. And if I can call upon Captain Kohli, Suman Dubey, and Brooks and Whistle, to be honest.
Per un momento.